All right. Hello, everyone. Very excited to have everyone on today's webinar, Inside Premium, a live session with Seeking Alpha's founder. My name's Fred. I'm the lead product manager for Premium and Pro here at Seeking Alpha. Really excited to do this webinar today. I'm here with two others, Sam Drackett. He's our senior product manager for Premium and Pro. Sam, thanks so much for joining today. And also here with the founder and CEO of Seeking Alpha, David Jackson. So David, thank you very much for joining us today as well. We're very excited to have David join us today. He's going to dive into how he uses Premium and demonstrate the features that he uses and loves the most. So really excited about that. Really excited for David to share that with all of you today. This webinar will be recorded and sent out afterwards. So before we jump into David showing kind of the features he loves, I'm just going to go ahead and quickly read our webinar disclosure. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Any views or opinions expressed in the webinar do not reflect those of Seeking Alpha as a whole. Any content and tools on the platform are offered for information purposes only. Seeking Alpha Portfolio is a tool for tracking news and analysis and does not constitute a brokerage account or enable any trading activity. Seeking Alpha does not take account of your objectives or your financial situation and does not offer any personalized investment advice. Seeking Alpha is not a licensed securities dealer, broker, U.S. investment advisor, or investment bank. Perfect. Okay. So, as I said, David Jackson, the founder and CEO of Seeking Alpha, is going to demo the premium features that he uses and loves the most, which is great. Sam and I will be in the chat providing links, providing other helpful info. We'll also be responding to questions in the chat. So as David goes through his demo, feel free to type your questions into the chat, and we'll make sure to respond to those. So feel free to, respond in that chat as well. We're really excited to do that. And so we're going to pass it over to David. So David, again, thanks for joining us. And without further ado, I'll pass it over to you to take it away.
Fantastic. Thanks, Fred, and thank you for having me on the webinar. I really appreciate it. And Sam, thank you for being here as well. I just want to say hello to everybody who's on the webinar. I'm just really honored to be doing this with customers of, the product that I've just spent so much of my life building. And I just want to say I tremendously appreciate all of you. I just really appreciate that, that you're customers and users of Seeking Alpha. And I'm excited to do this. I want to give a tiny little bit of background before I start showing you the features that I use most in Seeking Alpha Premium. When I started Seeking Alpha, my motivation for building Seeking Alpha was I wanted to build the product that I myself wanted to use. There are some founders who kind of start companies based on identifying the biggest market opportunity or the biggest market need, or the most profitable company that they could start. I was really incredibly lucky in that I started Seeking Alpha because I just wanted to build the product that I wanted myself. And so from the get-go, I was originally the product manager for Seeking Alpha, and then I worked very closely with the product team. And I'm still super involved in the product side of Seeking Alpha. And much of our product work comes from us being users ourselves, and therefore identifying things that we would like to see that we think are useful based on our own experiences. And so that's why I thought it could be kind of interesting and fun to show you some of the features that I just use myself the most in Seeking Alpha. One of the things that I've learned is that every user has their own quirks. And so particularly in investing. And so probably some of the things that I'm going to show you, you might think, oh man, that's kind of like weird, or gosh, he's doing some kind of crazy stuff there in his investing. One of the risks of me actually showing you how I use the site is you're going to see some of the stuff that I currently have in my portfolio, which is kind of risky. I was wondering whether I should set up all of these dummy portfolios ahead of this. And I thought, no, the whole point of this is to show you how I use the site. So I'm going to show you some stuff. I did change the holding numbers and the size of positions to so that they're not real position sizes. But most of the stuff which I'm going to show you is actually real stuff that I use. So with that, I'm gonna jump in and I'm gonna share my screen. Um, Hopefully, you can see it.
Yep.
I'm on the Seeking Alpha homepage. All right, so it's all working okay. Um,
Yes.
how's the size of it, Fred?
Looks great. Looks
All right,
perfect.
amazing. All right, fantastic. So for me, the core of my usage of Seeking Alpha is portfolios. I set up um, a whole bunch of portfolios and watch lists, and I constantly tweak my portfolios and watch lists. So the first thing which I want to show you about something that I do is if you look at my sidebar on the left here of the site, you can see my portfolios. And I've got a bunch of portfolios. I tend to kind of order the portfolios in terms of in order of what a session looks like for me and kind of what I do in order. So I'm going to take you through some of these portfolios. But the first thing that I actually just want to show you is I've hacked the name of the portfolios so that I can hack the order that they appear in my sidebar. So I've got all of these portfolios. So for example, Kid 1, Kid 2, and Kid 3, that's not what they're really called. I actually have the name of three of my children in there, but I've removed removed them for the purposes of this webinar. But you can see that I've got like some of my kids' portfolios here. I've got a whole bunch of other things. The default on the website is that your portfolios are sorted in alphabetical order in your navigation. So I hacked that by inserting numbers before my most frequently used portfolios. And so I can just kind of go in and change the name of a portfolio, and then if you refresh, it reorders the portfolios that appear in your sidebar. So here are my portfolios, and I've hacked the order. And now I want to show you some of the stuff that I do with portfolios. So I have various different types of portfolios. So the one that I'm showing you now, which is one watch, which is like a kind of watch list, is designed to give me a sense of kind of the overall state of the market, of kind of what's going on. So there's a bunch of things in this portfolio that aren't specific stocks or even ETFs. So DXY, for example, is the US dollar index, right? Because I'm interested in how strong the dollar is. And I've got the US 6-month treasuries, 12-month treasuries, and 10-year treasuries because I'm watching what the yield is, what the interest rate is on treasuries about, so I get a sense of the overall market conditions. This is a TIPS ETF, right? So I'm interested in kind of how TIPS ETFs are reacting as well to news. And then I've got Bitcoin, Ethereum, gold. Because these are three asset classes that I'm watching quite carefully. And Seeking Alpha allows you to track the actual asset itself, in this case, kind of Bitcoin, or let's say this is the gold spot price, and also ETFs. So after each of the main assets, I've got the ETF, which in my view, let's say, is if I wanted to trade that asset, these are the ones that I would use. So after Bitcoin, I've got the grayscale Bitcoin mini ETF trust because it's one of the lowest expense ratios and most liquid Bitcoin ETFs, and same for kind of Ethereum in there as well. And then I've got gold and gold stocks ETFs here, which I've been watching very carefully. Then to get a good sense of the market, I'm tracking the overall total stock market index, and then semiconductors, right? This is relevant, given the AI boom and how the AI boom is playing out, particularly in semiconductor stocks, and then energy and technology. And the last thing that I'm very interested in is there's been a tremendous run up in defense stocks over the last year and a half or so. So this is an ETF that tracks defense stocks. So that gives me a kind of a good overview of the market. The core to my portfolio usage is that I set up custom views on every single one of my portfolios. And the custom views I'm going to show you vary. Now, a custom view, you can add a custom view here by clicking Add or Edit Views. And then when you do that, I'm not going to demo it because I think this is what Fred and Sam do in their webinars, right? I'm not going to demoing to show you exactly how to do the things that I've done. Maybe we can, if Fred or Sam want to cover that at the end, they can. But I set up custom views for this particular view. What I was interested in is I wanted the asset, the price, the change, and then how's it done in the last month, the year to date, and 1 year performance, and then and then day range and and 52-week range as well. Here's another one of my portfolios, which is stocks that I'm currently holding in one portfolio. So about a year to 2 years ago, I really started kind of loading up on gold and gold stocks. I had a thesis, which was that I thought that there were chronic budget deficits and debt was rising in the US and in European countries, that it was hard to get the political will to get debt under control. And at the same time, I believe that many countries would start diversifying their reserves out of US treasuries more into gold. So that was my thesis. And I started kind of, buying gold stocks. This list of stocks that you see here isn't only gold stocks. This stock, Power Solutions International, was one of our top quant stock picks. Steve Kress featured this a number of times. I bought it 260 days ago when Steve was recommending it, and it got a really high quant rating. And so what I've done in this custom view is this is different from the other one because this is more specific to the stocks that I actually own. And so what I've done is I've made sure that I've input all the holdings information, which is really just the date that I bought the stock, how many shares I bought, and the price that I bought it at. And that then allowed me to choose this custom view where I've got the symbol, I've got the price, I've got the percentage change, and then the total change since I bought the stock. I care a lot about the quant rating. And then I put days held, which is one of the things that I most love about our custom views. One of the things that I think a lot about in my investing is I know that all the academic research into individual investors shows that the more individual investors trade on average, the less well they do. And so one of the things that I care a lot about is I want to try and stop myself from over trading. And so I want to make sure that I'm holding all of my holdings for a kind of really good period of time, at least a year, and ideally a lot more than that. And so I added this kind of days held because this is a really good reminder of stocks that I haven't owned for long enough and to make sure that I'm holding on to stocks. Now, I mentioned that I changed the numbers of the actual holdings. So the holdings here aren't real, but I want to show you another custom view that I added to my actual holdings. And again, the numbers here aren't real, but this is a view that shows me the holdings, and then I put the actual value of the holdings. Health warning again, these aren't accurate numbers. The total change since I bought the stock, so I can see kind of how big my gain is in dollar terms. And then one of the really nice features that we've got in custom views is that you can show the weight in your portfolio. So of all my holdings, these are the weights if the numbers were real, which as I mentioned, they're probably not. So I can look at something and say, hey, look, this is a pretty big position, and I should be watching that very carefully. And then also it shows, the cost that I actually bought the stock and the days. The cost, by the way, and the days held are accurate, right? The value and the weight are not accurate. So I find this very useful in custom views. I'm going to show you one other kind of application of how I use custom views, which is here I have a watch list called work related. So these are companies that in some way are related to Seeking Alpha. And this is me with my kind of, founder and CEO of Seeking Alpha hat on. Seeking Alpha has just amazing business intelligence information, right? You can track, publicly traded companies who are your competitors or in the same industry as you. And there's just like amazing information there. So I track this list of companies which are in similar, like kind of adjacent industries to Seeking Alpha. So you can see, for example, that there's the brokerages. I've got Robinhood, Coinbase, Webull, Morgan Stanley in there. There's the investing information stocks in here. So MSCI, Nasdaq. I've got exchanges like Nasdaq. I've got some kind of online subscription business, companies. So the New York Times is a great example of that. News Corp, right, owns Wall Street Journal. Um, so I'm tracking all of these companies. Um, my custom view for this is different, you'll have noticed, than my other custom views because I'm looking at these maybe less frequently and they're not really stocks that I own. So I don't always remember what the stock ticker is. So in this custom view, I've chosen to show the name of the company in the second column. And then one of the things that I'm really interested in is how big is the company. So in this custom view, I chose to show market cap. I'm also interested in the Seeking Alpha quant rating on each of these companies. FactSet, for example, is just a fabulous company that has a product for professional investors, kind of workstation product. The Seeking Alpha system is saying that it's got a sell rating on it because the stock is really expensive. I think that's the main reason for that. So I'm interested in kind of what's going on, and then I can look at the news coming out of all the companies that I'm tracking really easily. I just scroll to the bottom of the portfolio and in this one, my default is just the news. So I'm tracking the news on all of those. One final thing that I want to show you in how I use portfolios is I mentioned earlier that one of the things that I'm trying to keep on top of for my own investing is to make sure that I don't overtrade. And one of the ways to think about that is, am I selling stocks too early, right? Should I just be holding on to stocks for much longer than I really am? So I came up with a fun way to give myself a feedback loop and a kind of health check as to whether I'm selling stocks too early, which is I set up a portfolio of stocks that I've sold. So when I sell a stock, I add it to this portfolio, and I've called this one closed positions. So here it is. I've clicked on this portfolio of closed positions. So every time I sell a stock, I put it in this portfolio. Now, in case any of you are kind of watching, oh my God, let me see what you've been selling. I've been trimming positions in gold mining stocks because they've just gone up an enormous amount. And in many cases, I've been diversifying into other gold mining stocks. So, if I had a position that became very big, I've sold some of that position and then, put it into 3 or 4 to kind of spread the risk there. So you can see that some of the stocks in here are gold mining stocks. So I'll give you examples of stocks that I sold based on our quant system. I was very enthusiastic about the economic reforms in Argentina. And so a long time ago, I bought an Argentinian bank stock, which is this one, BBAR, right? Banco BBVA Argentina, because it got a very high rating in our quant system and it fit a theme that I was really interested in, which is, I think that Milei is going to do really good things for the Argentinian economy and the bank stocks are going to benefit. So I bought this bank stock and I also bought the Argentina stocks ETF. And I sold both of those at big gains, but earlier than I'd planned to because it looked as though they were breaking down. What actually subsequently happened was that Milei actually lost a really important election that was viewed as a kind of precursor to the next national election in Argentina. And so there's risk that Milei isn't going to be re-elected, in which case the whole thesis just collapses. And so when I sold those 2 stocks, I added them to this portfolio, and what you can see is that since I sold them, BBAR is down 35%, and the Argentina ETF is down 7%. And I can see how long ago I sold them because I just put them in the portfolio as if I bought them. So I put them in as a holding with the number of shares that I sold, with the date that I sold it, as if it was a buy, and that way the days held actually shows me how many days since I sold it. I've chosen two stocks that make my sell decisions look really good. Um, I'm happy to share with you that many of my sell decisions are catastrophic. And so you can see here, right, there's been some like really big increases. This one, PDLB, was a recommendation of Krista Muth, who I think is one of our most talented contributors on Seeking Alpha. I sold that way too early, and it's up 65% in the year and just under 2 years since I sold it. Um, and I bought the uranium ETF because quite early because I felt that the nuclear industry was going to do well, and that nuclear is a very important solution to a lot of the power needs that we're going to have. And I sold that way too early, so you can see that I sold that a year and 15 days ago, and it's up 56% since then. And some of the gold mining stocks that I've sold are up a lot as well. So I like this because it keeps me kind of in line thinking about, am I selling too early? I'm really looking here for a feedback loop to make my investing better. And one of the ways I feel that I'm going to make my investing better is by being very honest about my performance. And one of the ways to think about my performance is not just how is my portfolio doing, but how are the stocks that I sold doing, and what does that say about what I'm doing? Okay, that's how I use portfolios. Because I've got lots of portfolios and lots of watch lists. One of the things that I use a lot on the site, just to keep an eye on what's going on across all of those portfolios and watch lists without having to click on every single one, is I've customized my homepage. So as you know, you can customize your Seeking Alpha Premium homepage. And what I did was the top unit that I chose underneath the trending analysis and trending news unit. Here you can see my little picture here. And I've customized Seeking Alpha. And my favorite unit is Portfolio Movers. This unit shows the stocks that are moving the most in all of my portfolios. And that's really useful because in one unit, I can see stocks across all of these kind of watch lists and portfolios that I've got. Sometimes I don't even remember why the stock is in one of my watch lists or portfolios. And then, I'll see it moving here, and then I'll go and I'll say, oh, that's why it's there. So, for example, at one point, Kratos Defense and Security Solutions, was up 2.5%. Is up 2.5%, today. And why is that there? Oh, I remember. It's because I was interested in drones, in companies with drone technology. So I have a watch list just for drones, right? For any companies involved in the drone sector. So I didn't buy any of them. Actually, I bought one of them, but which did very well. But generally, most of them I didn't. But they're there, and I'm just tracking it. I'm very interested in it. So that's how I use. That's how I personalize the homepage to give me this kind of overview of all the stocks in all of the portfolios and watch lists. The last thing that I'll show you is just saved screens. How I use saved screens. It's very easy to save a screen. You can get into a screen in numerous ways from symbol pages by clicking on the links to the stocks in the sector of the stock that you're looking at. Also, we've got find and compare at the bottom where there's top stocks and top ETFs. And what I did was I went into the ETF screen and I saved the top ETF screen, and I customized it, and I customized the layout. This is really useful to me. It's the top ranked ETFs on Seeking Alpha. Now, unlike stocks where the quant ranking is a function of the stock's growth and valuation and EPS revisions and momentum, and one sec, I've forgotten one of the factors. Growth, valuation, profitability. Profitability is the fifth, right? So growth, valuation, profitability, EPS revisions, and momentum are the factors that power the Seeking Alpha quant ratings of stocks. With ETFs, it's almost all momentum. But the momentum isn't just kind of, well, which ETFs have got the most momentum, let's say in the last week. It's a balance between recent momentum and momentum, let's say, over the last year. And for me, that's very useful because I want to get a sense of what it is that's really working in the market. I'm primarily interested in this screen, not because I'm necessarily looking for ETFs to buy, but because I want to know what it is that's working in the market. That kind of top-down view then helps me a lot in thinking about, you know, are individual stocks attractive, right? Are they part of the market that's working well? And what you can see here in my ETFs by quant, I've called it, right, view, is that actually what's performing best in the market right now is crypto and gold, right? You can see that, almost the entire top 15 ETFs are just dominated by crypto and gold. I customize this, so for example, so it doesn't show leveraged ETFs because I don't want to see leverage stuff. I just want a kind of more plain view of what's going on in the market. And like I showed you with all my portfolios, I hacked the names of my saved screens so that in my navigation, I can order them the way I want to. And I did that by hacking the name, by inserting numbers before the name. Two other screens that I've saved because I wanted to diversify out of these holdings of gold mining stocks into other gold mining stocks and not have very concentrated positions in specific gold miners. I watch the screen for the top rated gold mining stocks very carefully because I'm sitting on these big gains and want to make sure that my risk doesn't get too high. And so I use this screen a lot. Again, this is customized. This shows the top rated gold mining stocks. And I've customized the screen so that it shows me the percentage change and very quickly the quant rating and then the factor grades as well. So that I can look at the valuation growth, profitability, momentum, and EPS revision factors. And I'm watching the market caps very carefully as well and the forward PE ratio. What's really nice about being able to customize stock screens and the appearance of stock screens and also custom views in portfolios, they're very similar, is that I get to choose exactly what I want to see, and that helps my investing a lot. And then the third screen that I use is a straight screen of, oh, sorry, I went backwards by accident, is a straight screen of these are the top quant ranked stocks on Seeking Alpha. And you can do this by going into the top stocks screener and then modifying the screen for however you want to use it. So this kind of really accounts for the core of my Seeking Alpha usage. I come into Seeking Alpha actually multiple times a day. I use it not only for my own investing, I'm on the site the whole time from a product perspective, looking at what's working. For those of you who are perceptive, you might notice some things in my setup that people outside the company don't have because we're beta testing certain things that, like in the product team, I'm not going to call them out, but if you've noticed anything in my setup, you might notice that. I'm also a Seeking Alpha contributor, so I have a link to the Analyst Center in my nav, which is the contributor, the center that you go to as a contributor that shows what articles you've got published and how much Seeking Alpha has paid you for the articles. I don't get paid because I'm the founder, so that's it. So I hope that this was helpful. I hope it was relatively interesting. I know it's a bit quirky. I hope that it wasn't too long and tedious. I hope that there was something in here that was useful for each of you. And if there's one lesson to take away from this, I think it's that I'm really happy that the people inside Seeking Alpha are passionate about our product, and we all use the product the whole time. So I've shown you how I've used the product myself. And so I hope there's something useful in there. And even if there isn't something useful in there, I want you to know that we really care about building a product, which is an amazing product for our customers, and we use it ourselves. And we use it and love it, and we're also critical of it. And that's part of the reason we're so open to your feedback and your suggestions of how we should improve our product. And so with that, I'm gonna hand it back to Fred and Sam.
Yeah. Thank you so much, David. That was awesome. Thanks for walking through all the kind of valuable features that you use in Seeking Alpha. We got some great feedback and some great questions in the chat that we responded to. So I think this was super valuable. We really appreciate you joining. As a reminder, we'll send out the recording of this 48 to 72 hours after this. And so we really appreciate it. If anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to us at subscriptions@seekingalpha.com. And we look to see you on the next webinar. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for logging in. Thank you for being customers. Thank you for using our product, and hope to see you again soon.